I think that the strength of the Korean people's interest in their democracy, the rule of law, in getting the facts straight, it's been very reasonable and measured.
What we have seen in South Korea is the protection of a vibrant democracy. I think in the long term, we're going to see a stronger South Korea.
Hey, South Korea, stop giving Trump ideas, right? He didn't know you could do that.
안녕하세요, 원다입니다. 위기 속에서 드러난 강인한 한국인들의 저력이 연일 세계적인 화제가 되고 있습니다. 특히 윤석열 대통령에 대한 탄핵 소추안이 가결된 후 한국인들의 저력은 더욱 주목받고 있는데요. 세계의 각 분야 전문가들은 민주주의를 수호하기 위한 한국인들의 놀랍고 감동적인 행동들을 분석하며 법치와 진실을 바로잡는 한국인들의 합리적이고 신중한 성정에도 주목합니다. 또한 이번 사태를 해결하는 한국인들의 모습을 통해 더 강력해질 한국을 장담할 수 있게 되었다고 말합니다.
I think that the strength of the Korean people's interest in their democracy, in the rule of law, in getting the facts straight. I think the more important issue here is what is going on and what has been the reaction of the Korean people. And they're saying, we don't want to turn back the clock to the authoritarian days. We don't have any nostalgia for that time. I just have seen day after day, have seen response from the Korean people. It's been very reasonable and measured.
Colonel Maxwell, the United States has highly valued South Korea as the beacon of democracy. Beacon of democracy.
What we have seen in South Korea is the protection of a vibrant democracy. The response by the people, by the legislature, and by the military, and in particular the Korean Special Forces, they acted to protect democracy and protect the Korean people. That is, be able to determine their own government and protect their own government. But they should be proud of the fact that they protected their democracy. I think in the long term, we're going to see a stronger South Korea, one which we are really proud to be allied with.
한국과의 동맹을 자랑스러워하는 미국 맥스웰 대령의 마음은 한국에게 보내는 미국 정부의 찬사에서도 느낄 수 있는데요. 미국 ABC 뉴스는 한국의 빠른 민주주의 회복력에 미국 조 바이든 대통령이 찬사를 보냈음을 전했습니다.
To the political upheaval in South Korea as President Yoon Suk-yeol is impeached after his disastrous attempt to declare martial law last week. Let's get the latest now from ABC's Patrick Reevell. Patrick, good morning to you.
Good morning, Janae. Yeah, thousands celebrated on the streets in South Korea's capital, Seoul, after its parliament voted to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol over that failed coup. Lawmakers voted yesterday that Yoon had committed insurrection. The Constitutional Court now has up to 6 months to rule whether to uphold the impeachment. Yoon is also facing a criminal investigation. President Joe Biden overnight called the acting president, praising the resilience of South Korea's democracy and reaffirming the US alliance.
독일의 공영 영화 방송은 한국인들의 모습이 얼마나 인상 깊었는지에 대해 보도했는데요. 위기 속에서 매우 적극적이고 정치적으로 깨어있는 한국인들을 보며 한국의 저력이 얼마나 강력한지를 느낀 듯합니다.
We start with breaking news from South Korea, where lawmakers have voted to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol. What does today's vote actually mean for South Korea's democracy? Perhaps you could remind us how this situation evolved in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it all started with the decision to impose martial law. And, you know, when I talked to young students here, the young generation in South Korea, they said when they saw the news, they couldn't believe it. They thought it was fake news, that it was like in a movie. Some people even told me that he thought that, wow, this could happen in North Korea, but not in South Korea. So for them, it was really very surreal. But, you know, their parents' generation, they still remember when South Korea was not yet a democracy and when actually military rulers imposed martial law and brutally suppressed the democracy movement here. So that is really a thing of the past. And now that decision by Yoon Suk-yeol to again impose martial law has evoked those dark memories. And that has been really very controversial, and that has united a lot of Koreans. And I would say this crisis has showed that, that the population here is quite alert, that they stand in for their democracy and that they have also stood the test. The civil society was very quickly in mobilizing the people, and demonstrations have formed. And I think that was really quite impressive how active the population here has been and how politically alert they have been.
현재 서구에서는 민주주의를 지켜낸 한국인들의 시위를 보며 함께 축하하고 있다고 하는데요.
Outlets in the West are already celebrating these protests as a victory for democracy in Korea or celebrating the defense of democracy.
독재적인 정치 성향을 보이는 대통령을 뽑은 미국에서는 더욱 그러한데요. 그래서인지 초기의 미국 토크쇼에서는 한국의 계엄령 선포와 해제 소식을 전하며 독재 정치 아래에 놓이게 될 미국의 미래를 걱정하는 풍자적 유머로 미국인들이 깨어있게 하려고 노력했죠.
Ooh, there was some big political drama overseas yesterday when the president of South Korea declared surprise martial law. That's actually really impressive. You know how hard it is to throw a surprise martial law? You have to get the entire military to hide behind the couch and then be quiet at the same time. Turn off the tank! Turn off the tank! So, to catch his critics off guard. No, stop. Stop it. Don't reward me. So to catch his critics off guard, President Yoon issued a martial law decree at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You never make a good decision at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're either starting a third glass of Chardonnay in a new season of Bake Off or you're declaring martial law. But guess what? Joke's on Yoon. Because by South Korean law, Parliament can vote to overturn martial law. And just 2 hours after he issued his decree, lawmakers made their way past armed guards to enter the country's National Assembly to vote against it, one of them even live streaming himself climbing over a fence to get back in. Oh no. If Trump ever declares martial law, we're screwed. We're screwed. Our Congress is way too old to climb fences. I mean, it's a nail biter. It's a nail biter every time they get into a bathtub. We'd have to make the Senate walk in. Now bear in mind, lawmakers were doing this as armed soldiers were breaking windows to get into Parliament and stop the assembly. That is very beeping bad.
Korean food pie!
한국 음식 말장난.
In the end, see? No. You see, you encourage me and you get jokes like that. In the end, lawmakers voted against the decree 190-0. And by 4:30 a.m., Yoon withdrew martial law, meaning in total, his entire coup lasted 6 hours, making it the shortest attempted coup since... Well, you know.
Let's get into the big international story.
Breaking news this morning out of South Korea, where the president there just declared martial law.
Okay, South Korea, stop giving Trump ideas, right? He didn't know you could do that. Unfortunately for South Korea, this looks like the beginning of a long and slow descent into dictatorship. A dark period which may last years or even decades.
Breaking news from overseas, South Korea's parliament just voted to nullify the declaration of martial law. That was made by the country's president just a few hours earlier.
Oh, that's great. Good old Asian efficiency. The president went nuts, declared martial law, the assembly overruled him, martial law over, and they did it all in a lunch break. All right. Everybody, get back to doing K-pop. Chop, chop. Dance. But I'm glad this didn't get out of hand. Because I don't even know what martial law in South Korea looks like. I mean, do they wheel this doll out and whoever moves gets shot? But let's turn to a country just beginning its fascism period in another edition of Trump 2.0, coming for the White House.